Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. Rob Dorset and Mark McAdam in the hot seats, if we had seats this evening. And they're going to bring you right up to date with the latest transfer news. And Cole Palmer tells us that he was surprised Manchester City were willing to let him go last summer. We've also got the latest on Jadon Sancho's return to Borussia Dortmund, which looks to be nearing completion. And speaking of returns, could Jordan Henderson be on his way back to the Premier League just 6 months after moving to Saudi? And there's plenty on Spurs too, as Ange Postecoglou looks to add a couple of players to his squad. Right, we're going to start, though, with our interview with Cole Palmer. Speaking before Chelsea play Middlesbrough in the EFL Cup semi-final tonight, the winger has revealed that he had no intention of leaving Manchester City in the summer. He's been speaking with Patrick Davison.
On this iPad are some quotes that hopefully tell us a little bit more about you. I read the quotes. Your job is to tell us who said it and hopefully then do a bit of background as well, OK?
No worries.
We have Cole Palmer, who is going to be an exceptional player. Cole has a special quality in the front of the box, a talent that is difficult to find. When he has the ball there, most of the time it ends up in the net. It's difficult to find that.
Pep.
Did he teach you a lot, Pep?
Yeah, just everything, essentially.
Really?
Just like what foot to pass with, what foot to control with, like just stuff like that, do you know what I mean?
Kind of like relearning the game a little bit.
Yeah, but just like a simple but so effective way.
To say to him, no, I want to try something new, it must have been difficult.
My thing was to never leave City. That was not my intention. I wanted to go on loan for a year, come back and be ready for the first team. But he said I can't go on loan. Like, you either stay or you get sold. So then Chelsea rang me. I said I want to go to Chelsea, and I'm really happy to be here, and I'm very glad I made the decision to come here.
Is it going better than you ever expected?
Yeah, I can't deny that. It's not like I wanted to just get in a team, play and show what I can do, but to get in a team straight away and just hit the ground running, it's surprised me, to be fair.
Mark, is it a surprise that he's gone from bit part for City to being main man at Chelsea?
Well, he's a superstar, isn't he, in the making? It's just a matter of time before he becomes an England regular. I know we'll talk about that later in the show and tonight from 7 o'clock, but the impact he's had in London since his arrival is quite staggering. 8 Premier League goals in 12 Premier League starts. He's caught the attention. The Chelsea fans love him. You get the sense that Mauricio Pochettino loves working with a player of his ability. I think the problem for him was at Manchester City, he was in the mix with some incredible players, Grealish, Foden, Doku, and game time was going to be limited. But I think that interview is revealing and shows a lot about his character, the fact that he could have stayed at Manchester City and littered his silverware cabinet even more so, but he's decided to take the plunge. It's a big money move. He's gone from Manchester to London, different part of the country, and he's established himself as a number one at Chelsea, and I'm so excited about seeing the progression and development of his career. And I think that interview this weekend will be a cracking watch.
Rob, Mark just said we'll talk about England at 7. Let's talk about England now. Cole Palmer, will he be in Gareth Southgate's thoughts for the European Championship?
Look, I think he'll be in the squad. I don't think he'll just be in the thoughts. I think he will be in Gareth Southgate's squad. And that's a heck of a surprise when, Mark's quite right there where he's talking about the competition that Cole Palmer had at Manchester City. He's got even more competition with England because you can add on top of Grealish and Foden, Saka, Rashford, Jared Bowen, etc., etc. But I think he's ahead of Raheem Sterling in the England pecking order right now in terms of wide attacking players from the way Southgate looks at it. You've mentioned the stats there, just how impressive he's been. But he was only called up to the England squad last time in November and really, really impressed everybody there. Media, Gareth Southgate, Steve Holland, the rest of the coaching staff and his peers that were, training alongside him for the first time at St George's Park. He made a big impact. He played in both games, which I think tells you something. He wasn't there just to make up the numbers and get the experience. He played in both games and played well in both games. And he has that added advantage that he can play down the middle as a central striker as well, which only Marcus Rashford, probably in those other names you mentioned, can do that. So look, I'm not surprised that he's done as well as he has at Chelsea. I think perhaps everybody's a little bit surprised it's happened so soon. But you're quite right in saying he's a superstar of the future. I think he could be a superstar for England this summer.
Yeah, and to reiterate what Mark said, 7 o'clock with lots of England chat. The players who probably need to get a move to make that squad. That's coming up at 7. Let's get to the day's news now, though. Let's speak Spurs. Dragusin. Is it happening or not, Mark?
It's getting closer. I know we've been speaking about it every single transfer window since the window opened at the beginning of January. We know that Spurs and Genoa are close to an agreement with regards to the 21-year-old centre-back you can see on your screen there. No question about his ability. He'd fit the profile for the type of player that Tottenham are looking to bring in and work under Ange Postecoglou. Our colleagues Sky in Italy have been reporting that the deal that's been agreed is a total package of 25 million euros with 5 million euros in add-on, which works around £26 million. That would suit what Tottenham wanted to pay. Genoa always said they wanted to get to that 30 million euro mark, which is what they're going to get. We know that there's been a meeting between the player and the hierarchy at Genoa today as well, just to confirm and go through the finer details. The interesting thing is that there's also a player going in the opposite direction, Jed Spence, who, of course, was signed by Tottenham, went out on loan, hasn't worked out at Leeds, been recalled, and he's going to go over to Genoa as a part of this deal. We know that Genoa, as I said last week on the show, were desperate for players, but they also need money as well because financially they're under the cosh at the moment. So Jed Spence heading in the opposite direction as a bit of a make-weight for this. Might be a fantastic opportunity for him to take himself out of English football and go try something a little bit different. The good thing about Tottenham is they've beaten off some interest from Napoli and Bayern Munich for Radu. So this is a big marker for them, beating other big European sides to get a player that has a lot of promise, a lot of excitement, a former Juventus youth international who could potentially be a big centre-back in the future.
So Spurs getting busy. Rob, the Timo Werner move, how close is that now?
Very close now, and I know we've been talking about it for a few days, but my understanding is that he's completing the second half of his medical as we speak right now. That medical started yesterday. We expect it to be completed later today. And then it's just the finer details that really need to be sorted out. And this 6-month loan move from RB Leipzig should be confirmed. And I think what's really interesting about the business that Spurs have potentially done here is they get the option to buy him for 15 million quid in the summer. And bear in mind that Chelsea paid £65 million for him just 3 seasons ago. And all right, it didn't quite work out for him at Stamford Bridge. But that's a bargain. If he scores goals as he has done in the past, and with the ability that I don't think anybody doubts he's got, if he can make himself at home at Spurs, score the goals, then that could be a great bit of business for them. And it's a real signal of intent from Spurs in backing Ange Postecoglou, isn't it, as well? So they will be paying all his wages until the end of the season. That's going to cost them over £4 million, about 4.2 million. But all of those numbers seem pretty good value, don't they, when you're looking at the potential striker that you're getting, especially when they've lost Harry Kane, Heung-min Son's at the Asian Cup.
I keep hearing words like bargain, good bit of business, low risk. Are they all right, Mark?
Absolutely. I think the most exciting thing that Tottenham fans will look at this particular transfer and they'll say, well, he was a big money move to Chelsea that didn't really set the bridge alight. He didn't really fulfil the potential that they saw in him and spent so much money on him. So therefore, he would look at it and say, I've got unfinished business in the Premier League. I want to show everyone in English football just how good I am. So therefore, they're going to get a really hungry player that's desperate to show everyone what he's got. Game time's been limited because of the quality in front of him at RB Leipzig, but this one makes sense. Premier League experience, he's a great character, very popular in the dressing rooms he's been in, and therefore I think Tottenham might just get someone that could be a really significant catalyst to them finishing the season strongly.
Right. Tottenham were interested in Conor Gallagher, weren't they? Mauricio Pochettino has been speaking about the midfielder. What's he had to say?
Yeah, so I think basically when you've got a manager speaking publicly about one of his superstars and about the interest with regards to the transfer activity and speculation around his name, you know that that's serious business because the manager wouldn't pull someone in and have a chat with him and talk about his sort of mental state and, you know, the situation without kind of acknowledging actually there is a little bit of speculation about your future. We know that there's been an interest from Tottenham in Conor Gallagher. We know that a number of other Premier League sides have also expressed their potential interest in him. He's an exciting player. He's captained Chelsea this season. You don't captain Chelsea without having some ability. The situation is he has 18 months left on his current Chelsea contract. And as of yet, there's been no real discussion or dialogue about potentially extending it. The other thing we know is that Conor Gallagher would represent 100% profit in any potential sale, which goes against FFP. So therefore, for Chelsea, that could be a big way of generating a huge sum of cash to offset some of their spending. The fact that the manager's acknowledged it, the fact that we know that he's getting into the latter stages of his contract, although he's captain Chelsea, the talk of him staying doesn't look to be concrete. So therefore, you'd have to monitor this one and say, this could be one to look at over the course of this window. In the summer, last 12 months, therefore, you'd almost have to say Chelsea will be either saying, if you don't sign a contract, we're going to have to sell you.
The sheer number of players that Chelsea have got means that a deal for Conor Gallagher that on paper you'd think that's not going to happen. Suddenly everything's potentially possible, isn't it? Because Chelsea need the money to come in if they're going to do what they want to do in backing the manager elsewhere. So the fact that he's captain, the fact that he's very much part of the plans is significant. But it may be that Chelsea decide that actually going forward, their priorities are elsewhere.
Backing the manager elsewhere, priorities elsewhere. Where are these priorities?
Well, it's a really good question, isn't it? And I think we're yet to see that, in actual fact, in this transfer window. I mean, it's pretty clear that Chelsea's squad is too big and they need to get some players out. So I wonder whether that's where the focus is going to be in this transfer window. But it's pretty clear as well that they want to strengthen and they want to bring in quality where they can. We're not hearing an awful lot about that at the moment.
Striker's a key position for them. We know that obviously they were unlucky with the Nkunku injury. Nicholas Jackson, whilst he has huge potential to be a big player in the future, he's not the finished article yet.
And he's going to the Africa Cup of Nations.
And of course he's going to the Africa Cup of Nations, so they are very short in that department. But as we know, buying a striker, and a good one, to score goals in the Premier League isn't cheap. And it's even more difficult in this window. And that's where Mauricio Pochettino and his backroom team and the recruitment staff at Chelsea will just have to weigh up what can they do, what can they spend, what's available, which is the significant thing. Because Chelsea fans, you say, well, here's 100 million, who'd you go and get? There's not many players out there that would come across for that kind of money. So therefore, it's going to be like an interesting situation to see how it develops. But it might be one for the summer.
If I had £1 for every agent and every football club I'd spoken to in this transfer window that said, yeah, we'd like a striker, ideally on loan because we haven't got the money.
£3?
I could at least I could buy Timo Werner myself, Mike, with that sort of money. But no, it's very difficult to do a striker, to do a forward player at all in this window. Because if it's somebody who's ready to play, who's scoring goals, then whichever club they're at doesn't want to let them go mid-season. And if they're not scoring goals and they're not on form, then why are you bringing them anyway? Because you need them to hit the ground running. So the problem that Chelsea have got is a problem that a lot of clubs have got right now.
So Chelsea have got to offload, and they are doing just that. Ian Maatsen on his way out, yes?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but it's only temporary, of course, because he's just signed a 2-year contract extension, or he's about to sign a 2-year contract extension with Chelsea before this move to Borussia Dortmund. So if there are no last-minute hitches, we expect him to sign that deal, possibly even tonight, before flying to Dortmund for a medical over the next day or two. I think a big season so far is that man has had, because, of course, he's done his time on loan at Charlton, at Coventry, at Burnley, impressed at all of those places. He's now been given his chance in the first team, 15 appearances for Chelsea this season, and he's been very, very impressive. That's what's earned him that contract extension. But it's pretty clear he likes the idea of going to Dortmund on loan, because it was made pretty clear to me that Burnley were interested in a deal for him, but that isn't progressing, and that seems to be down to the player. He prefers the chance to go and play regular football in the Bundesliga rather than going to Burnley, and then come back to Chelsea, in his eyes, a more rounded player.
Well, of course, he's not the only player who might be on his way to Dortmund. Of course, Jadon Sancho's move there is nearing completion. Now, Rob will give us the lowdown on that shortly. First, though, here is the Borussia Dortmund CEO, Hans-Joachim Watzke, who says he's optimistic about the deal being done.
Erstens verkünden wir keine Wasserstandsmeldungen, zweitens liegt aber das Problem nicht mehr bei Borussia Dortmund. Das ist auch klar. Also wir wissen, was wir wollen, und wir haben auch, glaube ich, mit Manchester United einen guten Austausch. Ich bin vorsichtig optimistisch, aber ich weiß, auch im Fußball kann man auch hochoptimistisch sein und trotzdem klappt es dann am Ende nicht. Also wir wollen ihn zu uns holen, leihweise, das ist kein Geheimnis. Aber ob es klappt, kann ich Ihnen erst dann sagen, wenn, ihr wisst ja besser Bescheid, wann welche Maschinen irgendwo in der Luft sind und so. Ich lese das auch immer, damit ich auch immer am neuesten Stand bin, ob es dann stimmt oder nicht.
So he's quietly confident, but not 100% sure. Is this a matter of when and not if, or not?
Yeah, that was a very political answer, and of course that's what managers do when, and other members at football clubs, when a deal isn't done and he's not their player yet. But look, we fully expect Jadon Sancho to be a Borussia Dortmund player in the next day or so. It's just a matter of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I think. The big things have already been agreed. The loan fee, the apportioning of his wages, all that's been agreed. But it's the final legal details of his contract that are yet to be ironed out. So we expect this to go through pretty quickly. We expect confirmation pretty quickly. I don't see any last-minute hitches getting in the way of this one. It could well be tomorrow that we're talking about this guy being out there, back at a club he knows very well. And the point is, it's been such a horrific time for him. Whatever the rights and wrongs, and whoever you blame about that row with Erik ten Hag, and whether you think he's handled it right, whether you think the Manchester United manager's handled it right, it's pretty clear that it's been unsavoury and bad for everybody involved. And Jadon Sancho is a real talent who most people in European football would like to see back on the football pitch playing well. If he goes back to Dortmund, where he's loved, where he's known, where he's happy with the environment and he's playing, then that's good from everybody's point of view. And I think that's the pragmatic approach that United and Dortmund have taken on this one.
All right, let's take a break. Now, when we come back, we've got news on Jordan Henderson. We've got news on Real Madrid chasing someone from Bayern Munich. And we've got details of the Championship striker with a growing list of Premier League options. That and more to come. See you in a moment. Hello again. We're going to talk Jordan Henderson in just a second. First, though, Mark's got a line. Mark.
Yeah, some confirmation of some news that's been circulating over the last 48 hours, and there'll be so many people that will pay attention to this because it's Brighton that are making moves in the window, and we know how good their recruitment is. Brighton are close to completing a £7.9 million deal to sign Valentin Barco from Boca Juniors. He can play left back, left midfield, left wing, so he operates down that left-hand channel. There's been reports, as I say, that he's going to go for his medical in Argentina as well. That's after Brighton personnel had been out to visit the player and conclude the deal. He had a $10 million release clause, which Brighton have activated. So just a matter of time now before this one gets confirmed. But again, we don't know a lot about him now, but you can almost bet that in a year or two's time, he'll be a player that everyone knows about because we know how good Brighton's recruitment is.
Transfer show reporters right across the transfer news. Right, let's get some more on Jordan Henderson then. Now, he wants to leave Al Ettifaq in Saudi and come back to the Premier League this month. The new Plymouth boss, Ian Foster, was Steven Gerrard's assistant at Al Ettifaq, and he's described Henderson as the greatest on-field leader he's worked with.
Listen, I had a fabulous relationship with Jordan. He sent me a beautiful message yesterday. What I can say about Jordan is that he's probably the best person and player I've had the privilege of working with. He's absolutely immaculate in his behaviours. He's a credit to himself, his family and his profession in terms of how he trains, how he plays, how he conducts himself. He's the best leader I've seen on the football pitch. And Jordan will be fully committed to the job.
High praise indeed, but Rob, does Henderson have to move to get into Southgate's Euro squad?
No. I mean, he's been there a while now, and he's still been selected in every squad that Gareth Southgate's picked. So, no, I don't think it's absolutely essential. But I think the impression we're getting pretty clearly is that that man on your screen, Jordan Henderson, wants to move back to the Premier League. It hasn't worked for him out there. But whatever you think about the morality of the decision that he made to go to Saudi Arabia, what you heard from Ian Foster there is what you hear from everybody in football. Consummate professional, gives 100%, real leader, inspiration to all of the younger players that he works with. And that's why I've been told that there are at least 2 or 3 Premier League clubs that would have him back like that if he was prepared to leave Saudi Arabia. But, and there are some big buts, would Al Ettifaq let him go? Steven Gerrard's under massive pressure. He's under a really bad run of results. He is his general on the pitch. He's somebody who he knows very well and who gets his message across out there. It'd be a big blow for Steven Gerrard if Jordan Henderson left. So would he allow that to happen? Would Al Ettifaq allow that to happen when he's the jewel in their crown? And he's on huge wages. Not the £700,000 a week that we were told he was on, maybe £500,000 a week. But nobody in the Premier League can get anywhere near that. So Jordan Henderson would have to take a massive pay cut to come back to the Premier League as well. So it's far from guaranteed that this will happen. We just know that that man in the middle of the screen would very much like it to happen.
Yeah, we'll keep a very close eye on that. Now, we've got a couple of lines from Europe. Sky Germany reporting that PSG would like to sign Joshua Kimmich this month. Now, that could have a knock-on effect for Fulham, of course, and Joao Paulinho. Much more of that coming up at 7 o'clock. And Mark, news of the Roadrunner, Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, the 23-year-old currently at Bayern Munich, the left-back, is into the last 18 months of his contract. He's been advised, this is via our colleagues in Sky Germany, that he should not extend his deal in Bayern Munich because Real Madrid are interested in signing him. 12 months left on his contract in the summer, maybe not one for this window, but we know that Real Madrid have an interest, and invariably when Real Madrid are interested in you, you want to go.
OK, right, I want to whiz through some names. I'm going to throw some names at you, gentlemen. Rob, Shea Adams, what's going on with him?
3 separate Premier League clubs interested in signing him. Southampton prepared to potentially let him go because even though he's playing for them, I think he scored 4 goals in his last 7 games, you were telling me before this one. Last chance for them to get some money for him because he's out of contract in the summer. So we'll be interesting to see whether Shea Adams is still a Southampton player in a couple of weeks' time because he's keen on getting back into the Premier League and we know that 2 or 3 clubs are interested in him.
Mark, Sunderland's Jack Clarke.
Yeah, different situation here because he's got 2.5 years on his contract, so therefore Sunderland very relaxed. Former Tottenham man is attracting interest from West Ham. Had a fantastic season, 12 goals in the Championship in 26 games. So, yeah, one to watch. Young player, lots of potential, a lot of quality, and you're starting to see it at the moment.
Rob, 10 seconds. Hugo Ekitike.
10 seconds. Wolves want him. They need a number 9. No approach made as yet for him. but definite interest there from Wolves.
That was 8 seconds, which was absolutely brilliant. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Much more from these two at 7 o'clock on the Transfer Show, where we will talk more on Jordan Henderson. We'll get what's going on with PSG, Real Madrid, Alphonso Davies, all of that, much, much more. Sky Sports News is back after this break. See you in a moment.